What's up, everybody? Time for another game theory video. Remember, if you like the videos, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. Today we're going to do a deep dive, sort of, into C Groove in CVS2 because it's one of the only things I actually like about the game. However, I think it's actually helped because of the jank in it, right? And if only every game could be so lucky to have something that is not planned that actually makes the game more interesting. And I think that is the case of CVS2. I know normally people probably think of that sort of idea that combos weren't necessarily planned in Street Fighter 2 and that helped the game. And I always use the example of something like Impossible Dust in Guilty Gear X as a great example of something that was not intended, but a bug that actually makes the game better. And it's a bug that allows you to level up while you level up your understanding of a video game. Actually, Impossible Dust, a great accident. And CVS2, C Groove, the basic idea, of course, is just you do a level 2 super and then you can do a special move or a super. But as we're going to watch in this video, let's start. Again, basic thing, I do a super, can cancel it to another special or to a super, but you will soon find there's some jank in the system. And I myself have been a victim of this jank before. But this jank, this shoddy programming, actually makes the game a little bit more interesting if you think about it, right? And nothing is really broken, okay? So again, what do we have here? A good thing that I like about the C Groove is that because you're normally just doing specials and supers, as I've always said before, specials and supers are inherently special. So you're encouraged to find interesting ways to mix and mash this mechanic, right? We can have whiff stuff like here into a power dunk, whatever it might be. It also gives us opportunities to use moves that are normally not useful, like Iori's 8 wine glass super. And wow, we can even do a dizzy combo from it, right? I still remember I was the first person to do this, which is pretty interesting to me. And actually, even looking at this, even now, I've still never seen, going back to CVS2 videos, I've never seen anyone do the cross-up back kick to a stand medium punch link. And I was actually looking videos. I still have not seen anyone ever do that before. Very strange. It is harder than it looks, but that is something I put in my original video. But what are we already seeing from CVS, this C Groove, right? Again, and this is especially true when you think about fighting games nowadays, where normals are so fucking homogenized and it feels like specials are the only thing that are a little bit different about characters. But again, it's great when you are encouraged, when you have a system that encourages you to use what is special about your character. And we've already seen, we have an example of like Iori, where we have a move that is normally not useful, and now it actually has a theoretical use, right? So let's see, what is the next clip. We also, once we start practicing with this, we can start to understand there's a little bit of jank besides that Ryu example where randomly I just go through the guy, right? So normally we have his super here. Let's move my head over here so we can actually see the power bar. I'm sorry. There you go. We're on this side. On the FGC on NBC. Let's start again. So we can see the damage right here, 36, right? But if we start fiddling with the game, let's say we cancel the throw. There's 47 there, right? But if we cancel at a later date, a later time, it does even more damage. Instantly, our brains are thinking, there's something wrong with this game. But it doesn't seem totally broken yet, right? And that's why I said, isn't that an amazing thing when a game can be shoddily programmed, but it's only making the game more interesting? That is something that this does, right? Let's go to an example like Kill, right? Let's say if we're doing double kick thingy jiggy, we go to fire super, right? Now we're going to have to move my head back over here. This is the quality control on the FGC on NBC. It does 3 hits, right? But let's watch this. We want to do a level 2 cancel, right? So we do this. So what happened right there, you saw it only did 3 hits. We see already, even when we're starting to fiddle with something simple, my move whiffed, but it made the fire super hit twice, even though it's only supposed to juggle once in this situation. Again, our brains are starting to move. Maybe not in unison. Maybe some people are slower than others. Let's do this again. So like, wait a second, did I fuck this up? You're like, okay, let me do the move. Well, okay, it hits, but that didn't actually make the flame super hit twice. So again, our brains are continuously thinking here. Let's show the next combo, right? So let's say we do this, right? Boom. We cancel here to make sure it whiff. And even though our fire punch doesn't hit, it made the Orochinagi, it made it hit twice, right? So boom. Okay, we're getting some weird kind of combos now. Things that are not supposed to happen are happening here. Let's try this. So, we could do something like, double kick here. Okay, whatever. But what if we tried to, do something like this? Boom. Boom, boom. There's different interesting examples because normally you can't get that double kick into shoulder tackle thing, right? We're looking, what I'm getting at right here is it's not rocket science, and the way that it's broken so far isn't like super hard to understand, but it's like easy to appreciate, let's say, and it like kind of encourages exploration of your character's moveset. Okay. Now let's go back to remember, because I've been doing stuff for video games a long time. So when I was first making videos for this game, and I know, God, I was a kid when I was doing stuff for this game, and people probably don't want to admit, but I mean, you can go back and look. And I've said this before, I'm not the person that came up with the Kim Infinite. I'm just the person that made it work. But even, it was the Cyberrec guys that had the idea for it, which I don't know if that's one guy or if it was a team of guys. And I think they're just doing task stuff anyway, but they had the original idea, so they get credit, right? I'm just the person that made it work. And that's why when you look up old videos, a lot of times it says Final Showdown, and even they wrote thanks Final Showdown and they did a combo, but technically it wasn't my idea, and the idea is important. So kudos to them. But even when in CVS2, when I was explaining how the game worked, right, I was using examples like this. Okay. So again, talking about C groove, right? Let's say we do right here. We're in a foot stomp. We can see that doesn't juggle, right? But what I was posting to people is if you do something like this, watch this. We're not going to hit the guy. We just do foot stomp here. Boom, and it juggles, right? And I think I show a super after here too. Let's say we do this, right? Boom, 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 boom. Foot stomp. Now watch this. I'm going to super, but there's going to be no shadow. See how that's weird? And I remember posting this to people, again, explaining how the game worked, and there's another guy that did a lot of CVS2 videos, and we won't mention him by name because I don't think he's really trashed me that much, but he didn't like how I was explaining the game when I would use weird examples like this, I remember. And I was like, because I was posting, I'm like, hey, look, if you do this, there's no more supers. And I'm like, this move must function as one move. And so if we're like in this state, we can tell that we've kind of like glitched out the game. And like, look, your supers no longer like have shadows on them and everything. So I'm like, how do we stay like in the switch stance? And I'm like, we can tell there's something broken here. And I just remember he didn't like, oh, don't use that super example or something because you got to talk in frame data. Because even back then, unfortunately, there was, sadly, some people, they only wanted to talk in frame data since, around that time is when people started talking in frame data, like, because again, this is after Street Fighter 2 days, and I'm like, and I would tell people, okay, I'm like, I don't know any fucking frame data, but I can tell that something else is going on here. I can tell we want to keep our character in a single move because it's like breaking the game. But he didn't like that example, I remember, because it wasn't like frame data. And I'm like, whatever. I can tell it's visually fucked up. That's good enough for little kid Clayton. Okay. So anyway, another example here. So you think about sometimes in a game like Alpha 3 or something had a jumping kind of infinites and everything like that. And I think at this point, the Japanese had already posted that Kyosuke had a jumping infinite kind of thing like this. So then there's like this real thing. And I'm like, okay, so what if you do something like this? Boom, 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 boom. And you hit the guy and you're like, wait, so this all counts as one move. Since I'm jumping, this move must count as one move. And then right when we hit the ground, and I'm like almost kind of like an Alpha 3-ish kind of thing, right? The initial grounded thing still is counting as one move. So now I can juggle as a dragon punch. Now again, how I'm explaining it to you right now is pretty much how I explained it back then because I don't know fucking frame data. I don't know any frame data in any game. I just look at stuff and I'm like, this must be counting as one move. Something is not correct here, right? So And just to show, fuck Rio in this game, dude. Why does he do this shit, right? Dude flies through. What a sad excuse for Rio is in this game. But anyway, so the Cyrec guys had this idea, and they're like, well, what if you keep Kim in the foot stance by car canceling the jab, right? And that was their idea. And excuse me, I was like, well, how the fuck you can't do that? It's just too fast, right? And I'm like, so like down, roundhouse, then you'd have to be holding this while you're holding around, then down, little punch, then press roundhouse again. And so like they had the idea and like, well, a level 2, and if you just keep them like that, it will stay as one move, right? Again, their idea, right? So you see this car canceling it. Now this is of course after I figured out the way to do it. But anyway, so I was thinking about it and I was like, well, how the fuck would you do that, right? And you got dudes already trying to talk about like frame data and shit like that. And I was thinking, oh, well, what about something like negative edge, right? Because we talked about things like negative edging in Street Fighter 2. And so I'm like, oh, so if I do like hold down, roundhouse, hold roundhouse, down, little punch, let go roundhouse, hold roundhouse, right? And that like made sense for my fingers. And so then I posted, I'm like, hey, I can do this, right? And well, the Kim Infinite was born, basically. However, again, it was not my idea. They were, I don't even know if it was one single guy or if the Cyrec guys are like a team of guys. And a lot of people did CVS2 combo videos on Speed 1. I don't know why they did that, if it makes things easier, but anyway, the point is they had the idea for it and I was like, oh God, I was like, I don't know, how would you press it that fast? You know what I mean? And I'm like, you can't manually do that. And then I was thinking like, oh, well, what if you negative edge? And I was like, as a kid, it's weird. Like I'm a grown man now. I'm an adult. I'm an adult now, right? Recently my birthday. Put me in the retirement home soon. A Daimo joke right there. Right. But, I was like, okay, so how would you do this? And I'm like, oh, well, negative edge. And I'm like, down, roundhouse, hold roundhouse, down, little punch. And if I let go roundhouse, hold roundhouse, you can do it instead of trying to like manually do it, if that makes sense. And I can even say, it took like dexterity and just a anecdotal thingy or whatever you're even saying. Even recording this, I can tell you, people try to tell me, Clayton, why don't you play games anymore? I know it hurts people's feelings why I don't play a lot of games. I've had surgery on my hands. I'm fucked up. I have all this nerve damage. I had that bad fall down the stairs a few years ago now that made me even worse. Even if I wanted to play games, I had surgery so long ago on my hands from getting fucked up. I don't have that kind of dexterity or muscle strength to even play video games a long time. And I'm only mentioning this because, I think about how old I am now and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I came up with this as a kid. It's kind of incredible to me when I think about it now, because I'm like, this is kind of pretty goddamn clever for a fucking kid, to be honest with you, when I think about it. But trying to record this again, I'm like, oh my God, I could never do this again. This is hard enough just for me to like try to show it again. But again, I don't even have an arcade stick, so it is on one of these busted pads, but I digress. But the point is, for CVS2, I think a reason why I like the C group thing is, again, you're encouraged to use it in a way that is special for your character. And when you think about games like, the homogenization of video games, things like Street Fighter 6, it feels like everyone is using the system the same way. But the C groove in CVS2, you're encouraged to use it in ways that is special to you, the character. And there is enough jank that it actually encourages you to explore, and nothing is like totally broken, I guess, unless you think that's broken or some shit like that, you know what I mean? But generally speaking, I will say it's obnoxious that, let's go back to this original example, I have been the victim of this while playing before. Oh, hey, boom, boom, and then doing something like this, that shit can't happen. I have been the victim of that, and it was outrageous, and I was not happy. I remember playing in tournaments. I've had shit like that happen. That shit is unacceptable. But the point is, you can tell that, it feels special. And I think that's great. And it leads to exploration. And games should every game only wishes they could be so lucky that something jank and unintended from shoddy programming actually makes the game more interesting, right? Morally speaking, I will say I think Seagroove is also kind of funny because to me, I think you could almost tell me honestly that it's kind of Capcom being selfish and petty, that they just didn't want SNK to like be more creative than them. Kind of like when you have like, oh, let's make Ryo, he's so cool in these new games. Let's make Ryo really slow and derpy. Even Kill, he's supposed to be a model. Let's make his stance like really like, I feel like that, but there's some characters that seem they have a biasness towards, but that's why I said I feel like CVS2 is a game that you look at it and I'm like, oh, there's just a clear biasness for this game. Like even C Group, I'm like, come on, Capcom, you never did this. Even if you're counting something like Street Fighter EX, I just feel they're like, oh, we got to do something creative because we don't want people to think of like SNK Group seems too strange compared to the shit we've been doing. So it feels kind of petty to me, but I don't totally hate it. And I've even said that, if I was going to make a Street Fighter game, I would like to have sort of C Groove stuff back in it. And you can watch how I've talked about how I would change Street Fighter. I mean, I would do, have your own super bar basically, and then have your EX bar. You're not your individualized EX moves. Not everyone has the same EX moves, right? A couple of EX moves. It's also what you use for alpha counters. It's also used what you tech roll, whatever. It's just this versatile system at the top. You can use it a few times, but it also would give you a CVS2 cancel. Whatever like that. I would totally put it in a game if I was making Street Fighter again. I'm surprised they've never done it again because I think it's fun, but I guess I would say the argument probably is it's just too unique for games nowadays. And God forbid something is not completely universal or completely homogenized in a fucking video game nowadays. But probably, again, one of the things I actually do like about CVS2. Anyway, remember if you like the videos, like, subscribe, comment, share. Support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. The end.